couple other places going to see some lightning, maybe hear a few rumbles of thunder, but again, it'll track off to about the northeast. It's going to be probably right around 20-25 miles an hour. Quite a few lightning strikes too, actually. You notice down there. I don't know what you define as chilly, but beach weather, this is still pretty cold to me. I don't think I'd be out on the beach just yet, but it's spring break for a lot of people, so we are seeing quite a few people already out walking on the beach. I mentioned this area of high pressure. This is going to continue to move east, and as it does so, winds start to shift back up out of the south. Here's our next cold front. So if you have any plans today, things should be pretty good overall. We'll have a mix of sun and clouds. And again, we could see a scattered shower anywhere, mostly confined to south of I-4. Now, if you live over in Canaveral Acres, Sharps, even down in Port St. John, Fonatech, Bellwood, you're going to be seeing the storm all within about the next hour. So if you're headed out to the track at about 4 p.m., temperature is going to be comfortable at 72, but you might want to bring a jacket because things are going to cool down pretty quickly. 62 at race start time. Speaking of rain, just how much did it bring us yesterday? Well, down at Winter Haven, they saw over 2 inches. For us here in Orlando, 1.7 inches. We've got another gorgeous day for Central Florida. Clouds, only a few. Sunshine, there's plenty of that right now. The view outside of Lake Mary, you see a few of those fair weather cumulus clouds, and notice temperature is currently sitting at 77 degrees, so comfortable at the moment. However, we are going to see temperatures start to warm up into the 80s as we go through the afternoon. Thursday, March 27th, let's get you out the door here today, and right now temperatures already starting to feel a little bit warmer, but notice by about 1 p.m. already going to be at about 84 degrees, and then by 3 p.m. we're going to be more of the same. Temperatures will top out right around 84, 85 for us here in Orlando. And then as we get into about the time you're driving home from work, 5 p.m., temperatures going to start to cool down a little bit, right around 82 degrees. But rain chances not going to be a factor at all today. Another view outside of Lake Fairview, and notice more of the same. Palm trees blowing around just a little bit in the slight breeze, but lots of sun and just a few clouds to note of. Temperatures right now along the East Coast, mid to low 70s. And as you work a little bit further inland, 79 for Orlando, currently the warmest place to note. But again, we'll see temperatures start to warm up. In fact, for us here in Orlando, look, notice we're going to see temperatures top out right around 85. That's at 4 p.m. And then slowly we start to climb down as we work into the late evening and overnight hours. Temperature is going to drop into the 60s. But this is even more of a note. If you had any plans, today's a great day to do it. Not a chance of rain in sight. And enjoy it because that trend is going to change as we get into the weekend. Forecast highs today for the rest of Central Florida. Leesburg 84, Sanford 82, and then as you get further back towards the East Coast, a little bit of a sea breeze in play, going to help keep things in the mid 70s for most places along the East Coast. Now, normally on Thursday, the Climate Prediction Center releases a new drought monitor. We haven't got the updated one just yet. They said that it was going to be a little bit late today, but even without getting the updated one, still notice the trend. I mean, for most of Central Florida, severe drought. In fact, from the Villages over to Spring Hill, that's the area that's in severe drought. And then you go to even a bit of a broader scope here and notice Daytona Beach down to Orlando, back over to Ocala, all still in moderate drought conditions. And if you're not in either of those two, you're probably in pretty dry conditions, which means we need rain. Good news is we're going to get that rain over the weekend. Bad news is it may be a little bit more torrential than what we would think when we just think about some daily afternoon showers. In fact, we've labeled Sunday as a weather impact day, mostly for torrential rain and potentially a few stronger storms that we could see. Now, here's what the setup's looking like. This is going to be Saturday morning right around 5 a.m. Notice we have a warm front over the Gulf sitting just to our south. This is going to start to push north, and as it does, we could see a few showers and again a few storms start to pop up over South Florida right around Fort Myers and Tampa Bay. Now, the concern with these storms would be that if there's not really much wind to push these storms along, if they form, they could just continue to dump a bunch of rain on one set area, which obviously could potentially lead to some flash flooding concerns. It's a big if. It's way too early to tell. But again, just something that we'll kind of keep an eye on here over the next couple days. Now, Sunday morning, notice we start to see a few more pop-up showers, and then Sunday right around 2 p.m. as the sea breezes have had enough time to get going, we're going to start to see showers and thunderstorms really start to fire up. In fact, by about Sunday in the afternoon, 6 p.m., notice from Palm Coast all the way down through Yeehaw Junction in the metro down to Lakeland, everybody seeing the bright reds and yellows indicating, again, heavy rain potentially and even some strong thunderstorms likely for most of central Florida. Now, this activity will start to linger, or will linger rather, right around 9 p.m., maybe a little bit later before it eventually starts to clear out. And then the next system that we could be talking about will be a cold front that's going to be located to the northwest here in the southeastern portions of the country. That could potentially be our next rainmaker after this one clears itself out. Now, I mentioned some of the rainfall that we could see. Totals right now, a few spots could see locally well over 2 inches, maybe even up to 4 or 5 inches possible. Again, still a little early to tell exact amounts, but I think the general idea here is going to be that we will see a lot of places probably get at least half an inch of rain, and obviously this will help everybody try to pull back on the drought conditions at least a little bit. Not going to get everybody completely out of it, but again, certainly should still help. The Storm Prediction Center does have a severe weather threat, not necessarily a huge one right now, but we'll have to see if they increase this or even drop that severe area down. Right now, this is from about north of Ocala and further up the state, so we're not going to have to worry about that severe threat yet. But again, there's still time, and this could certainly change. As far as your 7-day forecast goes, notice as we move into the weekend, not only are we going to see that weather threat come around in terms of a lot of rainfall, but we're also going to see conditions feel a lot warmer and a lot more humid. Sunday going to be your weather impact day. Conditions again going to feel humid throughout the weekend, and then as we get into Monday and Tuesday, temperatures really start to ramp up. 90 degrees potentially on Monday is your forecast high temperature, and then as we work through the middle of the work week, notice temperatures still sitting in the mid to upper 80s, and we will see the start of April on Tuesday.
This is a live look outside in downtown Orlando. You're watching Fox 35 News Edge at 8, Central Florida's only live local newscast at 8 p.m. on a beautiful, beautiful night tonight. I'm Noah Berggren here with meteorologist Austin Green. And, Austin, it was a little warmer today. I was playing pickleball this morning. I noticed it's a little more humid. Is that going to stick around all week or not really?
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, it was definitely warmer, and as you mentioned, the humidity, that was something that we haven't necessarily seen, but feels like we're finally starting to see it again, and that's going to continue into tomorrow. Now, there's a few things that we are watching right now, but first off, how about the Orlando Magic playing tonight in Kia Center in a pretty beautiful site, and actually a big game. Quite a few fans turned out for this one, and a pretty good night to do so. Currently sitting at 73 in Orlando, winds relatively calm. Now, I mentioned we were watching a few things. One of them was actually a shower, a pretty good downpour, as a matter of fact, that we had sitting just to the west of Brevard County. This is really all that there is to note on radar right now, but again, this kind of caught even us by surprise. Didn't think that it would stay together this long, much less produce this much rain, but right now, moving just to the north of Lake Poinciet, and it's going to continue to track that way. Now, not anything severe. We're not worried about any rotation. We're not worried about any hail. Again, just going to be a lot of rain if you're in any of the areas along Taylor Creek Road, Nova Road, and again, pushing further northeast might make it to 528 before it eventually starts to push offshore. Now, I mentioned we're not going to have to worry about any wind threat with this. Again, all we're looking at is in certain places, winds may be getting up to about 20 miles an hour or so. That's about the extent of it, and no rotation either. Our rotation tracker showing all there is a couple lightning strikes in the area, but again, no rotation, and we're not expecting any. As this does continue to track to the northeast, could be impacting Port St. John and a few other places here in about the next half an hour or so. The Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex in about 40 minutes, you could be seeing a pretty good downpour. Once that clears out, though, things are going to start to clear up rain-wise. Now, we do have this big mess of actually some pretty strong storms currently sitting over the Gulf, but as this continues to push our way, it's going to really just kind of fade out into nothing as it works kind of east and a little bit towards the south as well. This cold front right here is what's helping produce some of the clouds that we're actually seeing over central Florida today. Those clouds going to increase as we go through the rest of tonight, but again, rain chance is going to remain relatively low. Temperatures right now, 70s, upper 60s for most of central Florida. The one exception right now, maybe Palm Coast, the coolest of them all, currently sitting at about 68. Temperatures tomorrow morning, though, going to be back in the 60s. Now, I mentioned that we shouldn't necessarily see much activity tonight, maybe a shower or two, especially right around midnight, maybe a little bit earlier tonight. But eventually, that is going to push clear towards the east coast, and once it does, not going to have to worry about much besides some clouds. Wind's going to stay relatively calm and should be a pretty good day tomorrow. Maybe if you're even thinking about heading out to the beach, temperatures are certainly going to be warm enough to do so. Now, for anybody over on the west coast, fog could be a bit of an issue tomorrow, especially some dense fog for areas west of I-75, and even some patchy fog could try to sneak its way here into southern Lake County, maybe western Orange County, but that's not going to last for too long. It'll burn off as we start to get into the late morning hours, and then again, things should start to clear out, at least in terms of fog. Low temperatures tomorrow morning, everybody going to be sitting in the 60s. The further north you go, you may even find a couple of spots. Gainesville and Ocala still going to be sitting in the upper 50s. Highs, though, going to get a whole lot warmer. In fact, a lot of places, notice, in the 80s, and really the only exception to this trend is actually the East Coast. Daytona Beach, New Smyrna Beach going to be staying in the 70s, and that's because we're actually going to probably have a sea breeze develop tomorrow as temperatures start to warm up. Now, our next front after this one eventually passes through is only going to be about a day after. In fact, this is going to be on Wednesday early morning when that front starts to approach, and similar to the one that we're going to get here tonight, it's not really going to do much for temperatures, not going to bring us much rain. All it's going to do is keep the cloud cover around and keep temperatures from warming substantially as we go through the next couple days. But eventually, once that clears out, as we start to get into Friday, we're going to start a temperature climb. Notice, big area of high pressure. I know it's a little bit off screen here. Over in the Atlantic, winds are going to start to slowly work their way back out of the south, and temperatures are going to finally start to climb. It's really going to start to feel like spring. In fact, the big thing to notice right here is next Monday, 91 degrees, potentially. Again, we'll have to keep an eye on this. The point is, either way, temperatures are going to really start to climb as we work into the end of the week. As for tomorrow, temperature is going to be topping out at 84. We'll stay in the mid-80s through Wednesday, and then just a brief cool down on Thursday, and rain chances not going to return until Sunday. Noah, back to you.
Thank you, Austin, and we will have much more coming up right after this.